Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Good morning. So, we are on the Five Jhana Factors. And last class we kind of just went over the basics again. How to meditate, how to sit, what to expect. So today we'll be covering 1 and 2 of the factors, just because they're pretty much the same, just one's more precise than the other. Alright, so we're at applied attention and sustained attention, vitaka and vikara. So, as I mentioned last time, as we start to progress in our practice, in our meditation practice, and as we start to learn how to sit for longer periods of time and to really hone down our concentration, at the same time we should be working on eradicating or suspending the 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances, again, are sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, and doubt. So these are the hindrances that need to be suppressed in order for these factors to arise. Because these factors are also the antidote to the hindrances as well. And so, for most people, they'll be able to get through the first and second factors, right? Maybe the third, if we're lucky enough. But in order to get past that, we also need to suppress those hindrances. They don't have to be completely eradicated or completely gone. They just need to be suspended and not be a hindrance while you're in meditation. So as long as those hindrances don't arise, or if they do arise, that you take care of them, then you'll allow space for the factors to arise in their place of the hindrances. So for applied attention, this is essentially what we would typically do, or what you would typically do when we sit for a short meditation session, right? So like for the one-on-one class, right, you only sit for 10, 15 minutes. That's really just that, right? That's applied attention, where you're constantly applying attention to your object of meditation. So in this case, because there's 3 different types of concentrations in meditation, right? There's what we're trying to achieve is the axis concentration piece, right? Axis concentration is the true meditation in a sense, where the mind is concentrated enough and it's strong enough to hold the object of meditation for a long period of time. And so, as we do the applied concentration piece, this is really as you're meditating, right? Because we're using anapanasati as our object of meditation in this case, right? Mindfulness of breathing. So you're using your breath as the object of meditation. So, specifically though, we're going to focus on the anapana spot. The anapana spot is just this little area between your nostrils and your upper lip. So as you're breathing, you're focusing on this spot and this spot only. This is your entirety of your area of concentration. Because if we go back to the different methods, right, there's different breathing methods that I taught you over the years, right? One of them is to observe the breath as it goes in and out of your body, as it, touches your nose and goes in your nose, down your throat, into your chest. There's different methods of breathing meditation. But for this specifically, we use the anapana spot. So we're right here. So you're keeping your entire focus only on the spot, and this spot only. So as you breathe, you're just noticing the air move in and out of your nostrils at this spot only. It may be very subtle. You may not be able to notice it at first, but as your body and your breathing and your mind starts to calm, then you'll be able to notice the sensation a little bit stronger. Because as the first 5, maybe 10 minutes of us sitting, our body's still getting used to the sitting, it's getting used to the posture, your mind is trying to go all over the place. And so as the mind and body starts to calm and starts to become in balance, then your entire body and your mind is more calm to be able to feel that very subtle sensation in that spot. And so you may not be able to notice it at first, but after a few minutes, as your body and your mind start to calm and become balanced, you'll be able to notice the sensation of the air going in and out of the Anapana spot. So Anapanasati and mindfulness of breathing is going to be your object of meditation for these classes. And so as we use that, we come to vitaka, right? Initial concentration or attention or applied attention. And this is essentially holding the object of meditation, right, the Anapana spot, fully. And any time you get distracted or another thought arises, you're just applying attention back to the Anapana spot, right? This is why it's applied attention. You're just constantly applying your attention back and forth. Because it may take 5-10 minutes, again, for your mind and body to start to calm down a little bit. So as we're going through that initial calming, your mind's going to be racing with thoughts and emotions and feelings and sensations. And so we are constantly going to be applying the attention to the Anapana spot. And not allowing the distractions to arise. So remember, the Anapana spot is the foreground. That is your main object of meditation, right here. And so as distractions arise, or as emotions arise, or feelings arise, or sounds, or whatever it may be, right, it's kind of in the background, it's trying to disposition your object of meditation. It's trying to push out your object of meditation, and we're not allowing it. So as we see it coming, right, because all thoughts, all distractions start at a very small spot until we give it attention, then it expands, becomes a whole story, right? And so before that even happens, the moment we notice an object, the moment we notice a distraction arising, we're going to replace it by applying our attention back to our Anapana spots. So this is literally just applying constant attention back and forth between distraction to Anapana spot, back and forth. This is the tedious part, right? Because everyone's all like, oh, I can't calm my mind keeps racing. I keep having to I keep on getting distracted. I can't focus on the object of meditation or on the Anapana spot. It's perfectly fine. That's exactly what we need to be doing anyway. Because if you're not noticing that you're distracted, or you're not noticing that your mind's wandering, then you're not meditating. Meditation is observing the mind, knowing that you're distracted, knowing that there are thoughts wandering around and distracting you, right? Knowing that is meditation. So as you start to become more adept to knowing and applying your attention to the object of meditation, you're starting to reprogram your mind to do just that, right? Because again, the mind is obsessed with time, right? It's obsessed with the past and it's obsessed with the future. Because those are the two things that it can control. It cannot control the present moment because it doesn't know what's going on, right? It has no boundaries. And so the more we practice and the more we start to apply our attention back to the object of meditation constantly, our mind's going to figure out, you know what? I might as well just give in, right? They're going to wave a white flag and just kind of give up on you eventually. And then distractions will stop. Your distractions or wandering thoughts may not completely disappear ever, right? Even as for Zen masters. Thoughts and distractions and wandering thoughts may never go away, but they'll be extremely subtle or almost non-existent, right? Because you can still be a meditation master and have distracting thoughts, but at least you know what to do with those distracting thoughts. Knowing what to do is applying our attention back to the object of meditation. Not knowing is leaving it as is and creating this whole story and moving your mind, right? And so we're constantly applying attention to our object of meditation, our breathing, Anapana spot right here. And then as we start to do that and start to become more masterful in applying our attention, then it switches to sustained attention, where we can hold that attention on the Anapanasati for 5, 10, 15 minutes without any distraction takeover, right? When I say distraction takeover, that means that even if you're in sustained attention, right, where you can sit for 5, 10 minutes without any distractions, there's still maybe some wispy distractions in the background, but they're not strong enough, or you don't allow them to be strong enough where they take over your object of meditation, right? But at an applied attention, it does take over the object of meditation. So we're applying our attention back, so it pushes it back, right? It's doing this all the time with applied attention. But with sustained attention, your attention is strong enough that even when the distractions come, they just bounce back. You're not allowing them to take over, right? Because taking over means that the door were open and you're thinking, who is that? Why are they late? Why are they here? Who are they? Blah, 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 right? That's a takeover. Versus if the door opens, right, and you hear the door open, all you have to do is say, label it sound, and it goes away. But if the door opens, you're like, who is that? Why are they here? Why are they late? This is happening. And then applied attention is putting it back. But with sustained attention, it's just playing bouncy ball. It's not going anywhere. And so sustained attention is the point where we can hold our object of meditation for a longer period of time. It may not have to be the entire sit of your duration, the duration of your sit, or meditation practice, but the majority, hopefully the majority of the time, you'll be in sustained attention. And from sustained attention is where the other factors, or at least joy and bliss, right, become somewhat apparent, right? They become very strong. But we won't go into that right now. But as we go through these factors, right, because these are the factors that are necessary to have a strong enough point called access concentration, right? Ikagata. Sorry, not Ikagata. Ikagata is one point in this. But it gives us access concentration, which is our kind of goal in our meditation practice, right? In most of the sutras or the discourses and the commentaries of meditation practice, right, we have the two types of meditation, right? Vipassana and samatha. Contemplation or insight and concentration. This is concentration. And within concentration, the third type of meditation, absorption, the jhana, that's just a nice to have, right? It's not necessary in our practice. Access concentration is the need to have. Jhana is just a nice to have. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't make any difference. But access concentration is the point, is the mastering of meditation. Because it's only in access meditation where we can fully hold on to our object of meditation for a long duration or for the entire duration of the meditation practice. But in order for that to arise, the hindrances need to be suspended, and the factors need to be applied in its place. Right? Because again, the factors are the antidote to the hindrances. And as we start to practice, and you'll notice over time, right, how the mind works, how emotions arise, how feelings arise, why they arose, and where they came from, right? Some of the kind of what's it called? Side effects of meditation is the arising of emotions or trauma, as maybe, right? And so those are hindrances, right? Unless you know how to apply the antidote to assuage them, push them aside, push them away. So if something arose, something big, emotional outburst, right, arose within you, don't freak out as most people do, right? They'll start to reminisce and start to go back in time and relive these emotions and traumas and bad situations, and we don't want to do that, right? So just like with anything else that arises as a distraction, we simply just want to label it. Labeling becomes extremely important here when we're doing applied attention, because it's labeling is what applied attention essentially is, right? So anything that arises, anything that happens as you sit, right? This is your object of meditation. These are all the distractions. The labeling comes in because as the distraction comes and you see it happening, before it becomes a big story, right? As you see it happening, that's when you want to label it. You make that quick label, because as soon as you label it, it'll go away. Because the distraction will be like, oh, you caught me. So it's going to run away. And so the quicker you can recognize and be aware and find those distractions when they happen, the better. The quicker you find them, the less amount of time they have to take over, right? But even if they do take over, it's fine. As long as you applied attention back to your object of meditation, as long as you've notated and you've found the distraction, that's still okay. That's still meditation. It's exactly what you should be doing, right? But if you sit and let the distraction take over for the entire duration of the meditation, then you kind of, wasted your time. But even if it takes the entire amount of sitting in order to find the distraction, to recognize and label it, right? It took you 20, 30 minutes to find it, that's fine. Let it take 20 and 30 minutes to find it. But as long as you found it, as long as you've applied attention back to the object of meditation, to your distractions, that's fine. But again, the sooner you find it, the sooner you're able to label it, the sooner you're able to apply attention back to it, the better. But don't get discouraged if it takes you 5, 10 minutes or the entire sit. It's okay. We're all learning here. But as soon as the quicker you're able to recognize distractions, the quicker they go away. And the more you do that, the less and less distractions will arise. The less and less emotions will take over, or distractions will take over. And once that lessens to a point where you're able to sustain your object of meditation for a long period of time, then you're getting into the good stuff. Right? This is where the real meditation comes in. I mean, all this is real meditation, but to have a distraction-free or a distraction-less meditation is what we all want, right? So it can't happen if you're not applying attention and you're not sustaining that attention. One thing that I hear a lot of people do, and I've fallen victim to it many, many years ago, is when you're in a point of sustained attention, or even in access concentration, right? What can sometimes happen is your mind kind of clicks and recognizes what's happening. You're like, oh my God, it's happening. This is it. Right? But as soon as that happens, the whole thing is lost. So even if you recognize that you're in a very concentrated session, you're having very little distraction to no distraction, you don't want to apply attention to that, right? Just let it be. What needs to happen is if you recognize that, and it's very quick, right? If and when you recognize that concentration is strong, and you're not being distracted, and this is it, this feels good, this is what meditation is all like. As soon as you recognize that, don't apply more attention to it. Don't entertain it. Simply just shift your attention back to your object of meditation. Go back to the breathing. Because if you wave at your strong concentration, like, hey, I see you, Again, just like distractions, you're like, oh no, you caught me, it's going to go away. So even if we're in moments of strong, good concentration, let it be. Recognize that it's there and just go back to your object of meditation. Because most people get excited when they figure out that they're in a strong concentration mindset, right? When they've noticed that they haven't been distracted for a long time, or their breathing is very subtle, it's very shallow, it's where it needs to be, people get excited, and then the whole concentration piece is gone. It gets lost because you apply too much attention to it, which is restlessness, one of the hindrances. And so you don't want to apply attention to it. Recognize it, know it's there, but then shift your attention back to your breathing. Don't get too excited. Get excited after you finish the meditation, but not during the meditation. Another sign that we're in sustained attention mindsets, or even deeper, is our breathing. As we start to sit and become more concentrated and more focused on our object of meditation, the breathing becomes very shallow, becomes very short. It even may seem like we're not even breathing at all, right? It's just so subtle. It's very short. It's very shallow. And that also kind of freaks people out sometimes, because if they notice, like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm breathing, so they take in this deep breath, right? And just do this huge sigh. You don't want to do that either. That also resets the whole strong concentration piece too. Your body knows what to do. It's not going to stop breathing, right? So even if your breath is very shallow and very short, that's okay. That's what your body needs. When you're sleeping, that's exactly how we breathe too. So don't freak out if you notice that your breath is very shallow, very short, or almost non-existent. It's never non-existent, but it may feel like it because you don't feel a natural huff and puff, right? It's very shallow, it's very subtle. And so if you do notice that, just like with noticing that you have strong concentration, don't give too much attention to it. Acknowledge it, and then just shift your attention back to the breathing. And just trust that your body knows what to do. It's not going to stop breathing, okay? So just trust your body to know what to do and just allow the breathing to continue. But when you're in that situation, if you notice your breath is very shallow, very short, almost non-existent, that's also a sign of strong concentration, good concentration. So that's another sign. And as we get deeper into the factors, you'll notice more subtleties of the body. So at the sustained level, you'll notice that the breath is very shallow, very short, very calm. And as we get deeper to the third and fourth factors, then the body becomes very calm and subtle, where you may not even notice your body. You may not notice the pressure of your sitting position. You may not even feel your hands together if they're on top of each other, right? These senses kind of not entirely disappear, but they become very subtle. Like you even notice it. You can't even feel your hands together. You can't feel the pressure of the seat. You can't feel body aches or whatnot. Like your body is calm, right? So 1 and 2 is calming the breath, calming the mind. 3 and 4 is calming the body. And at the 5th level, your entire being is calm enough and sustained enough where we can access concentration. Right? Because access concentration is literally that. It's the state of mind that allows you access into the jhanas, if you so choose to go to that path in the future. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. That way we have actual 30 minutes of sitting this time. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts. Yes. Anapana spot. This is the Anapana spot, the area between your nostrils and your upper lip. That's the spot you want to keep and maintain and sustain your focus of your breathing. As we begin, what we can do at the first 5 to 10 breaths, just do normal breathing, right? Get into the zone where your body is able to connect with the mind. So it's nice and balanced. Then after a few breaths, then you can shift your attention to the Anapana spot. And again, at first, you may not be able to sense any sensation there, right? But again, as you wait a few more minutes and your body and mind start to become calm, then you'll be able to notice the subtlety of the breath or the air or the sensation in that spot. Don't follow the breath inside your body or outside, right? You're not following anything. You're not notating any of the exercises in the Anapana 16 exercise, right? Like we said last time, breathe in, you know that you're breathing in, breathe out, you know that you're breathing out. Breathe in a long breath, you know you're breathing in a long breath, breathe out a long breath, you know, all those exercises, right? We don't do that, because that means we're following the breath in and out. You're simply just focusing your attention on the spot, the sensation in this spot and this spot only. So just feel the breath, feel the air. That's all you need to focus on. It's definitely easier when it's cold. Because if the air is at a normal temperature, and your body is at a normal temperature, then we may not be able to feel any sensation at all, right? If your body is at a normal, 78 degrees, something like that, 90-something degrees, 97 degrees. 70, that's really cold. 97 degrees. But the air outside is 50 or 60. Then as the air goes into your warm body, there's obvious sensation, right? As we all know, I would think. But if the body is cold and the air is cold, then you may not be able to sense anything. And if the body is hot and the air is hot, then you also may not be able to sense anything. But in a temperature-controlled area where hopefully the sensation is obvious, or obvious enough in its subtlety to be noticeable. And even, again, it may not be noticeable at first, but as you start to situate yourself and begin the meditation, then it'll become clearer. Because it becomes clearer because you're applying more attention to it, right? So if you sit and you kind of notice or notate that you don't feel anything yet, just continue applying attention. Continue applying attention, and then eventually you'll be able to notice the subtlety. Applying attention is the important part here. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we will finally be able to sit for a full 30 minutes of time. So, stretch out, comfort yourself, do what you need to do. Welcome back. How was everyone's applied attention today? How often did you have to apply attention?
Like you said, it's technically not I felt not much. Bad. Being too hard.
Yeah, I always feel like at the very tip of my nose. That's where I always feel it. It's not as easy as it sounds, is it? Well, technically they're never open at the same time. There's always one halfway closed, one always closed. But yes, having breathable nose does help. You can, but when you're doing walking meditation, because when we're doing sitting meditation, your focus is on what the object meditation is, right, or the anapanasati. But when you're walking, you're shifting the attention to the walk itself, so the sensations of your feet. So instead of the sensation of the anapanasati, you shift it to the sensation of your feet moving. Yeah, that's the traditional way of doing walking meditation. So your feet would be the object of meditation. But you can use your breath as the object. You can try to sync your breath with the walking, right? But most commonly, most traditionally, the feet would be the object of meditation. Because as we're doing walking, right, our normal walk, our normal stride is we're already taking one step before the other foot has completed its step, right? So our feet always look like this, right? So as we try to step, our other foot's already ready to walk in front of it. When you're doing walking meditation, because we are supposed to be more mindful of the movement, your feet should be flat on the ground, both feet flat on the ground before you take another step, right? So your feet are always flat. There's never one half and half, right? It's always flat, 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 flat. Which is why it causes walking meditation to be as slow as it is. This is actually fast, traditional walking meditation. What we're doing is fast. Traditionally, it's very, very slow, right? If you go back to the Anapanasati Sutra, the Mindfulness of Breathing Sutra, there are 16 practices, 16 exercises, right? So as you're breathing, there's 16 notations you would make or can make throughout the sit, right? And it's the same thing with the walking meditation. So for each step, imagine making 16 notations, 16 notes for one step. How fast would you have to move in order to make room for all those 16 steps? Right? So that's how slow traditional walking meditation is. But I don't have the patience for that. So I do it the way I do it. So my notation usually is from 2 to 3 notes. Most commonly it's just the lifting, shifting, and placing. That's my notations. Lifting, shifting, placing. We can create any other, whatever you want. Lifting, moving, putting down, I don't know, whatever notes you want to use. But I would use lifting, shifting, and placing for walking. you'll notice or maybe you've noticed when we're doing the Anapana spot, as object of meditation, because it's such a subtle object, it does allow more room for distractions to arise. And you may have noticed that. So versus if we were doing a different breathing exercise where you're sensing the breath, going in through your body and going out, right? Or are you doing the different spots of meditation, right? Focusing on the nose, and you focus the back of your throat, then through your lungs and your whole body, right? So you're focusing and moving your focus throughout the body, right? And so you have more to do. So it has less room for distractions to arise. Versus when we're just sticking to one very subtle spot, right? There's more room for distraction to arise. And you may have noticed that even though you're keeping attention to the Anapana spot, you may still have been thinking, right? There may still have been distraction arise, or feelings or emotions, whatever arises, right? And so you'll notice it's a little bit more challenging if you were to use a different, more physical method of meditation, right? Or even when doing counting. So you're doing something, you're counting, right? And sometimes I even tell you can visualize the numbers as you count. So breathing in and breathing out, 1 in, out 2 in, out 3, and you can visualize the numbers. So you're doing more work, right, for your practice, and so there's less room for distractions to arise or thinking to happen. But when we're shifting our attention to the Anapana spot, which is already in itself very subtle, right, and like you said, you can barely feel or sense the air in the spot, there's more room for distraction. But because of that challenge, which is why it's a challenging practice to even access concentration. So, which is fine, because we've previously, and throughout all our classes throughout the years, we've used different objects of meditation, different practices, different breathing techniques, visualizations, mantras, etc., etc. All these exercises, methods, have a huge success rate in a way because there's more work. There's more than just counting or feeling the air and the breathing or whatnot, right? Whereas with the Anapana spot, you're really not doing anything except just trying to focus your mind. Your spiritual eye is supposed to be focusing right here. And so it's more difficult to apply and sustain attention because of its subtlety. But eventually you'll get, as you practice and as you continue to maintain and use the Anapana spot as your object of meditation, with the breathing, it'll get easier, just like any other practice, any other method. So don't attempt to discourage yourself if you feel like it isn't working. Take time, use time. 30 minutes is ideal, the minimum ideal time to meditate. Unless you're doing like momentary concentration, where you have only 10-15 minutes. But even though that is technically helpful, it doesn't give you room to advance if you're just sticking with 10-15 minutes of meditation. And all you're doing is constantly applying attention to your object of meditation, constantly applying attention. 10-15 minutes, even though it's useful and may be helpful, but it's not enough time for you to be able to advance through your meditation practice. And so, of course, all of you have been here for a while, so no one's super new. So, because of that, if you do have a meditation practice, I hope it's at least 30 minutes minimum. Because for most people, you already spend about 5-10 minutes just in applied attention, right? The first few minutes of the meditation, You're trying to get into the zone, you're trying to zen out, and you're just constantly applying and reapplying the attention to object meditation, right? But that's not real meditation, right? It's kind of like just the pre-game. You're pre-gaming for the actual meditation. The actual meditation doesn't start until the sustained attention, the second factor. That's the meditation. And then you can sit at that point for at least 30 minutes within it. And then after 30 minutes, maybe not as long. Maybe at the 15, 20 minute mark, you may be able to start, if you're at the sustained attention part by then at the 15, 20 minute mark, then we start getting into the third factor of joy, or piti, in the body, right? Which is a physical, pleasurable sensation, which we'll get into next time. But I will recommend that when you do sitting meditation, do it for at least 30 minutes. Today was 30 minutes. It wasn't that bad, right? No. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. But even when you sit 30 minutes, it has to be a consistent practice, right? So I would say the minimum at least twice a day that you would meditate for 30 minutes each. Or if your life is super busy and hectic, at the very minimum, at least one 30-minute session. But if you're able to at least either wake up earlier or clear your calendar for the second session, do what you need to do. But don't just practice when you come to temple. Otherwise, you're not benefiting yourself. Your meditation, your practice is not beneficial. Okay. Any last minute questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? All right, then we will disband, and I will see everyone in our next class or tomorrow. Thank you. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.